so sick of the webtoon format is inferior compared to manga take because everyone presents that argument in flawed logic. Of course, the guy who says it is a biased manga channel. How is he biased? He chose paneling as the first reason for the webtoon problem, which is just the worst thing he could have chosen. Manga panels are only rectangular, whereas webtoons offer so much more creative panel and flow potential. In fact, he ruins his own point by showing a webtoon on screen that has exactly that, despite it going really fast, while simultaneously saying this.
Somehow, despite no longer having physical constraints, webtoons have made comics even more limited than they were on paper.
Even though the webtoon panels had a lot more variety than the manga panels. So instead of a horizontal spread for a climactic moment, you can portray a vertical spread for a climactic moment. This completely contradicts his whole argument, which is that the webtoon format is the worst thing that happened to the comic industry from an artistic perspective.
From an artistic perspective, the invention of the webtoon format is the single biggest downgrade to the comic book of its entire history.
Which one is more artistic? Rectangles? It's funny that the example he gives for manga paneling being superior is the overlapping method.
The panels are all overlapping, and their positions on the page actually trace the arc of the hat as it flies through the air.
Which is something that webtoon artists also do, it's just that he chose to show you regular panels.
And this is my problem with the webtoon format.
That's not a format difference, but a panel style difference.
Kikana didn't have to draw the panel borders here at all. It would have still read just fine as one big image, but they're still here as an artistic choice, a mere suggestion of panels, to subtly frame the hat into different shots.
It's such a cheap attempt to compare a single manga artist's objectively good panel example to a whole general comic format by showing an instance of a webtoon artist not doing that. It genuinely seems like what he's mad at is the artist difference, not the format difference, because the artist can choose to create their panels creatively.
And this is my problem with the webtoon format. That spaciousness, that liberty is gone.
I know this is probably not what he means, but it's so funny because he says the space you had in manga is gone for webtoons, which is the complete opposite. I think anyone can agree. If you're genuinely passionate about the book good phone bad take at this day and age, you sound like you're saying that you read books because you're so different, unique, and traditional when people are on their phones all the time. Does I'm Not Like Other Boys sound familiar to you at all? It's cringe. Just keep reading manga and no one will bother you saying the manga format is trash because no one cares. We're on our phones every day going through Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, etc. And reading a webtoon is better than being on social media in my opinion. So I don't think there's anything wrong with a comic format optimized for phones. Do you think the creation of mobile games is the worst thing that happened to the gaming industry then, because they're also made for phones? He says he doesn't like the format because it sacrifices artistic freedom, even though it brings a new kind of artistic freedom, like a different kind of paneling approach. Manga limits flow readability because you read it from side to side, so there's a greater element of surprise to the webtoon format. The worst thing is that he says if all webtoons were of quality, he wouldn't have made this video. That's it. He just shouldn't have made the video. It's as if he doesn't know that the process of creating manga versus webtoons is so incredibly different that they can't be compared in the specific way he wants to. I'm gonna be brief in my reasoning because I don't want to repeat what I said in a past video, but these people all think the same. There are plenty of shitty manga, you're just not discovering them as easily or as much as webtoons because webtoons are free and a lot more accessible. Also, this is just my assumption, so sorry if this is wrong, but I feel like manga that sucks would not get translated and brought into American stores. Don't blame the format instead of the author for being painstakingly unoriginal and the company for deciding to feature yet another plagiarism webtoon, embodying a trend that ended years ago because they can't tell the difference between people reading them because they're all over the place or because the art is good versus people reading them because the story is objectively good. Just because Webtoon chose the worst stories to feature on their site that degrades the general quality of the platform doesn't mean the format is bad. I just think the company somehow manages to make the worst decisions possible, whether that's marketing or something else. It's like they don't know how to grow their own platform to being more than just a niche, because they keep targeting a young audience as if that audience is not just gonna grow out of cringe copy pastas in a couple years, if they even have the money to fast pass as a minor in the first place. One of the real reasons I prefer the Webtoon format is because I don't want to be spoiled by my peripheral vision when the next panels are visible on the same page I'm on. And yes, I have read Sailor Moon before, which is why even though I hate most stories on Webtoon because they're so unoriginal or cringe, I still support the format itself and the several Webtoons that are actually good. Something interesting I've noticed is that in my experience, the good Webtoons are usually made by a single individual doing both story and art, while the copypastas have 2 or more people credited because they're Webtoon adaptations to existing web novels that were popular in the past. So something tells me they're trying to make easy money by adding an artist to draw a story that already had a fan base because many of those fans will be interested. I guess this is their way of limiting risk of a flop or something. I think a lot of these web novels were made in a time when romance fantasy webtoons weren't a trend yet, and a bunch of them were contracted at around the same time, which led to a massive abundance of them arising from every webtoon platform, at least in the beginning of the surge. I don't know why they're still milking this long dead trend, but what's your opinion on this theory? Has your experience been similar or different in terms of creator count per copypasta? Let me know in the comments. In conclusion, basically, the problem with Webtoon isn't the format, but the company and their awful marketing tactics, the works they choose to promote, and the audience they choose to target.